it's coming up to 1:23 in the afternoon. You're watching and listening to Good Afternoon Britain. Now, this is the debate we have been teasing all show, and we're going to get to it. The question is, should parents be fined for their children's bad or appalling behaviour?
Yeah, so this seems to be the question that everyone is asking today. Why has it reared its head today? Well, if you're watching us on television, you will be seeing clips of, let's just call them hordes of hundreds of feral yobbos rampaging through a shopping centre in Milton Keynes. But it's not just been in Milton Keynes, is it? No, we've seen it in London. I dare say that you see things on your high street. This story affects absolutely everybody. Is it just rampant criminal damage? Is it a bit of shoplifting wherever you are? Is it even just minor things, like kids wandering around the street and maybe dinking someone's car or lobbing a wheelie bin around or something? But it all adds up, doesn't it? And the fundamental lack of respect as well that is shown towards police officers. One of the reasons why we have people wandering around armed with machetes and goodness knows what else right now is because obviously they do not fear the consequences and they do not fear being caught. So, should the parents be the ones to carry the can for their dodgy kids?
Yes, they are children, after all. Well, joining us to debate this is mother of two, Sally Mitchell, who believes parents are not to blame, and our presenter, Martin Daubney, who is also a parent, who thinks parents should be fined. They are to blame. OK, so who should we start with here? Let's start with Sally. Sally, why on earth do you not think parents are to blame?
I think parents get the blame for an awful lot of things. And I don't know how old Martin's children are, but mine are pretty much grown now. And I've seen every single phase. And one thing I know is that you can lead by example. But once they start moving away from your apron strings and get into school, particularly secondary school, their peers and social media become almost more important, and that can really affect the control, if you like, that you have over them. There is nothing more stubborn or adamant than a teenager who thinks they know better.
I mean, Sally, I used to want to go to house parties. I used to want to go out late at night. I used to want to do X, Y, and Z. And my mum literally just said no. And that was it. No, I would cry, I would wail, I would, shout and kick my feet. But no meant no, Sally. No clearly doesn't mean no anymore.
I don't think it does. I think parents have a really hard time these days. I remember those days as well. No meant no. And also, I didn't have the wherewithal to sort of challenge it. There was no public transport. If I wanted to go anywhere, I lived very remotely. I needed someone to drive me. They said no. You don't go. That just don't do it. But now it's slightly more complicated, I think. The family dynamic.
But they might do it once. I mean, Martin, I'll throw it to you on this, all right? Well, with respect, we're not talking about house parties here. We're talking about criminal damage. We're talking about even people firing fireworks at police officers. We're talking about people stabbing each other in the street. And, kids in school uniform might decide to gate crash a shopping centre once, Martin. But once they get filmed and put out there and the parents give them a clip round the ear, they shouldn't do it again. Isn't the problem the fact that they are continually doing it?
Yeah, the parents need to carry the can for this toxic combination of an entitled generation, law and order that treats them with kid gloves, kids that know they've got the power in the classroom, they know they've got the power in shopping centres, and parents who are feckless or ignorant to what they're up to, simply washing their hands of it, saying, it's not my fault, it's the fault of social media. Is it heckers like? I sat down with my two kids today, I've got a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I showed them this video. I went, behold, morons, don't be like these kids, because this kind of bad behaviour, it's contagious. It starts in the classroom, they think it's cool, they copy each other. There needs to be a grown-up in this conversation, and we're not our children's friends, we're not their mates, we are their disciplinarians, and it begins at home, and this stimulus actually can be turned into a learning moment, because these are the kids that poison classrooms and make them all underachieve, and it's because they're driven by narcissism, by the desire for social media likes, and meanwhile their education is going up in smoke because society is tolerating this absolutely abhorrent behaviour.
Sally, what if it's repeated behaviour, OK? So I think people are maybe quite willing to accept that kids might get caught up in a moment once or twice or something like that. But what if you've got a repeat child offender here Do you think it would have any impact whatsoever if they said, look, if you keep doing this, your mum is going to go to prison?
Yeah, you would think that would be a deterrent, and I hope in most cases that would be, and it would make the parents, who perhaps are not as vigilant on their parenting, sit up and take notice and do something about it. I think it's really, really difficult. I heard on one of the videos, the comments from someone filming were, oh, look, they've touched him. They know they can't do that. Now they're in trouble, talking to the security guards. So I think authority figures have their hands tied. I'm amazed that the police were able to get there, to be honest, because frankly, if you phone up and report anything, they don't turn up these days. So that was a good thing. But yeah, like fining for, taking for absence from school. Yeah. It can be a deterrent. I would hope it would be. I mean, you have to accept there are some children out there who are just problems.
Yeah, just problem children. I mean, Martin, to be fair, parenting isn't easy. Perhaps it's particularly difficult in some ways with the social media, with that sort of herd mentality. If you're a parent and you work, long shifts, you're not always able to be around your child, you're not always able to be there to discipline immediately. Can you see that actually sometimes it's not always the parents' fault? It could be, the other kids.
Well, of course, it can be other factors, but ultimately the responsibility of every parent is their children's actions. And that's why we need us to be the part of their brain that isn't fully developed yet. Children take risks. They make bad decisions. It's called growing up. But there needs to be an intervention from sensible people, from adults, parents who care. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe these parents don't care. Maybe these parents are just 20-year-older
versions. How much would you
versions
fine them, Martin?
of these kids we see on the streets.
Martin, how much would you fine the parents?
60 quid a pop.
60 quid a pop.
Straight off
60
the bat.
quid a go. Let's start with that.
Straight off the bat, I love it, Martin. Good lad. I mean, but I'll just stick with you, Martin. We'll go back to you, Sally, on this. Martin, is there a bigger conversation to be had here about societal breakdown, maybe the breakdown of the nuclear family? Obviously, there's no way of us, being able to prove anything from any of these clips. But I know there is an issue with things like fatherless homes, for example, that I know can have an impact in children's behaviours. Do you think there's a wider context here?
100%. I did a lot of work on this before I got drawn into politics, and 85% of young men in jail grew up in fatherless homes. 95% of boys in gangs grew up in fatherless homes. So they're looking for toxic father figures. They're looking for easy solutions. They don't want to do the hard yards, the hard work. They want a shortcut, and that increasingly means crime. And then we have a policing system which doesn't stop and search because they're too afraid to be called racist. Shoplifting is de facto decriminalised for under 200 quid. It's the opposite of a broken windows policy in New York. We are creating broken children by mollycoddling them and not giving them a disciplinary framework. The result is what we saw in this video.
Word to you. Are parents trying to be their children's friends? Is that the problem?
Me? Yeah, yes, I think that is a problem, actually. I've never wanted to be my children's friends. They've got enough friends. But yeah, that does happen a lot, and I think sometimes it's because it's the easy option. Being the disciplinarian, being the one who sets boundaries is hard. There's a lot of pushback, and to keep it going is one of the hardest parts of parenting. To keep being consistent. Consistency is key. But with Milton Keynes, how alarming must it have been to be in that position with hordes of, screaming children, hormones raging, running around. I would have been so scared. And I do feel for everybody who is caught up in it. And interestingly, we don't think of Milton Keynes, as far as I know, as, a deprived area. So what on earth were they doing?
All right. Well, look, both of you, thank you very, very much. We're going to continue to talk about this. I am a bit sick and tired of parenting being somebody else's fault. I don't have children yet, but one of the considerations is that, it's a lot of work. And if you can't be bothered to necessarily do that work, then maybe don't do it. Just quickly, Martin, do you know what you got on your show later? Because you'll be on 3 till 6, won't you, mate?
Yeah, definitely covering this story as well. I've had loads and loads and loads of emails from people who live in Milton Keynes who are saying this never happened 10 years ago. Milton Keynes has changed. It's become an overspill for damaged parts of London, a dumping ground for social problems, just like we see on the seaside towns. Bad policies, failed Liberal policies becoming the problems of towns like Milton Keynes. Parents telling me they're scrimping and saving to send their kids to private schools to get them away from children like this. Families who don't care, abandoned by society. This video is symptomatic of what's going on all across Britain.
Well, thank you very much, Martin Daubney, 3 till 6, and Sally Mitchell. Thank you very much for joining us for that debate. Good stuff. Very interesting indeed. Now, keep your views coming in on that. We will get to some more very shortly.
Lots of strong
But remember the Tavistock Clinic?